Whodey, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm sorry about that. I had a little bit of technical difficulties. I hope you guys can hear me pretty clear. Um, yeah, I'm doing good, man. I feel good.
Well, what's some of the attire you got on there? What do you got going on?
Oh, this is from man. I dropped this one like a year ago. This was the original Shiesty. Like Shiesty showed up to the press conference and he had the Cartiers on or whatever, and I immediately was like, "Let me get to working on this one." So this one was This is like this when he first unveiled his new chain and stuff. I don't even remember. Somebody probably watching this probably could tell me when I dropped it. It's probably been like a year and a half or so now.
Well, what do you got new coming out for this upcoming season? Are you working on that right now?
Yeah, 100%. I've been working really, really hard on it. I haven't really talked about the clothes at all like in a while, and it's kind of weird too. But
Well,
if you
talk
guys
about it
don't
because
know,
you got great stuff. Talk about it, please.
I got a website. It's called zimhude.com. It's a line on it called Burrow Babies, but this year's theme is really fun. I feel like I got two designs I couldn't drop because we didn't win at Burrowhead. So I got those sitting right there to the side. And then I got this whole idea of like why people fear the Bengals being really good. So I'm having some fun with it about like I think at some point we're gonna win so much they're just gonna be like, bro, like it's aliens. Like if the Bengals win a Super Bowl, people are going to freak out. Y'all know that, right? Like because they're already freaking out. Like just the Bengals having two really good seasons. So like I have this thought process that it's like this fear of like an orange planet, and that's where I'm at.
All right, look, we got a lot of people. Look, there are a lot of. I'm not going to call them haters, but there are a lot of people that love to say, "Oh man, you made this comment. Turns out, maybe that wasn't the case. You were talking a while back about Higgins and his contract. It looks like that thing has not been done yet. Where it stands, really, at the end of the day, only Higgins, the team, and his agent know the deal." Do you have any comment on that at all, or are you still standing by the deal that you think it's getting done?
I mean, I always feel like it's going to get done, but I feel like that's not me being a prophet. Like I feel like the average Bengal fan, you could pay attention to even I'm pretty sure people got the video from yesterday. He's almost talking like in past tense to say, "I always wanted to be a Bengal, and it's good to be somewhere where people like you and stuff." And one thing I thought that coming out of this, I've talked to people before, or I've told Twitter about people like even this all season about like Travion Williams being signed, or like Foster Moreau coming for a visit, all these different things. But I think I hadn't done it to an athlete of this magnitude. And I think I just underestimated me writing one tweet with like, what is it, like 7, 8 words. I just really underestimated that. And I think out of my private conversations, and I guess this is a form of like reporting or whatever too, it's like just because you heard it, just because you might even saw it, there's other things that you can't really control too. So like immediately after I did that tweet, there are people that were behind it that were putting dates and stuff on it, doing all this other stuff that I couldn't, you know what I mean? And
Yep.
then you were giving me an intro and you were like, man, everybody like I was talking to my mom about this the other day. I was like, I never knew that me liking the Bengals would make me like this polarizing figure, and I feel like it's more like it don't even really have nothing to do with T Higgins to me. Like if you read like most of the comments or like people will send me stuff because I don't really read like all that crap, but it's always about like aha, tell them that you didn't get it right. It's not even about like T Higgins because I will hope a Bengals fans want the deal to be done right.
Yep.
So that's the part. I think it's more about like how did this guy do all of this stuff? Like like how does he connect with Thom Brennaman? How does he have Thom Brennaman on his draft party? Like like those are the things that people don't say. And you've been in this business for a long time. I find it funny or I think it's crazy you could do so many good things.
Yep.
You could break so many different things. But the minute that they think that they got you, or the minute that show like any form of weakness or something, they're like, ha ha. And
Yep.
they're retweeting those things. But think about all the different things that you've covered. Think about all the things that you've done. When you had, like your moment, where people were down on you, they people retweet that. People are pushing that more than anything that you've ever done. And it kind of like takes away all the good that you've done. And I feel like that's anybody in the world. Like, and it's kind of crazy that the internet is like that. But who knew one tweet would turn into like this thing with pitchforks? Like, aha, we got him. But I do think that let me say this, go back to Tee Higgins real quick. A couple different things. Imagine this. So first and foremost, everybody that knows me knows that Tee Higgins and all these different people, we talk to them regularly on our Twitter spaces. So that's not a thing. So like I think people need to like move out the way with that. The other thing is this. He could say, my agent says that yeah, whatever I want to do or whatever. But check this out. Imagine that the conversations weren't good. Imagine that the conversations were sour. Bengals fans got to understand, bro is about to play in a contract year. Like, hypothetically, they could pick up his franchise tag, but the risk versus reward, it's a pretty steep risk if you go out there. The conversations will have to be good, right? And then one thing that people weren't privy to is when I made that tweet, that actual negotiations were going on at that moment. I don't know if people were even thinking about that at that time, and I don't think people really talk about that. So I just want to say that though, like if they weren't well or they weren't good, he wouldn't show up at the facility. I don't care what that thing, like whatever he said.
I think that's a legitimate point. I think that's something that maybe many of us, me included, don't think of it that way, because how many times have we seen in the past where a guy wants to be paid? And look, everybody wants to be paid. I don't have a problem with guys getting paid. God bless them all. I hope everybody in the world makes as much money as they can every day of their lives, right?
Right.
But the fact that he's here just speaks volumes about kind of where he is with this franchise. We've seen it 1,000 times where guys will be like, oh, man, I'm not getting this deal. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. I'm not coming to this voluntary thing, because he doesn't have to be here. And yet he's out there running around yesterday with Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon and dunking footballs into basketball hoops and all the rest. I mean, it was great stuff.
Right.
It's great video. All right, so look, I want to get your thoughts.
Don't you think that that's kind of like a big focal point? Like, imagine, just give people a scenario real quick. Say that you're my agent right now, and say the contract weren't going well. You think that you would tell me to go up to Paycor Stadium and just, like, if it was that far apart or it wasn't going good or everything wasn't in place or at least parameters or whatever weren't set, like, in my mind, if you were my agent, you would say, yeah, don't go up there. We need to gain back. We need to show them that we mean business.
Well, I mean, I think there are agents out there that do that kind of thing. I've made the argument.
Do you know who his agent is?
Well, I know Jesse Bates' agent. I mean, I know that. But I've made the argument when it comes to a guy like Williams. Okay, so T is handled, and his agent, even though they had the thing with Jesse Bates, that's fine with the Bengals. You don't read anything about it. It's under the radar. Everything's quiet. Everything's cool. He's here. He's in town. The Williams thing, I made the comment yesterday, Zim. I just feel like you've got a player who's going to make a lot of money this coming year. He's been a good player for you since you drafted. He may not be a great player. He may not be everything that everybody wants, an Anthony Munoz at left tackle, right, or Willie Anderson or somebody. But, I mean, Jonah Williams has been a very good player for this franchise. Okay, they bring in Orlando Brown Jr. Now he's going over to right tackle. It's a brand new position for him. He's never played it before. I have a big issue with him not being here. I didn't like the timing of demanding a trade right after the Brown signing and all that kind of thing. But look, I'm not in the middle of it. I don't know all the details. But I just feel like Williams should be here. What do you think?
I feel like me and you are in the minority, according to Twitter and social media, because you can't pay nobody to talk about that situation. And it's crazy, when the whole Mixon thing was going around, I remember I came on your show. You said, hey, I thought Mixon was the best player on the field in that Bills game, right? And then when we go to the off season, I mean, I think there's so many different things swirling around the Jonah Williams thing. Is he good? Giving up sacks. You got the argument of 2021 argument of he probably was the best offensive lineman going on that Super Bowl team versus the talent level and offensive level now. But the couple things that we do know is that Mixon was one of the guys that said, "I'll do whatever it takes to play for this team," and he bleeds black and orange. And that's not to say that Jonah doesn't, but I just find it super crazy or hypocritical when people were really, really piling on the Mixon thing. They had nothing to say about Jonah except like, "Oh, well, we don't control that. He's got to get traded." Well, damn it, explore some options like that. Like that's what I was doing. You know, like I don't think if you're talking about a championship level team, it's so funny. I was watching a Draymond Green interview or something this morning. He said, "I think we weren't in it because of the thing that happened with me and Poole, where he punches him and
Yeah.
you know before the season." And that's so long ago in our minds because the cycle of news. But everything is about cohesive parts and people that really buy in and want to be a part of it. And I feel I'm a big proponent of that. I know that Jonah, I think, is I don't know him personally. I've never talked to him or anything. I think that he loves football though. And if you love football, I think you'd be like Tee Higgins, whether his agent said, "I think you should go," or don't. I think you just show up. Maybe the knee surgery, you're like, "Man, I don't feel too great about it." At least I would show up at a facility and go through some stuff, get
Yep.
acclimated, start talking to some players. Even if you're not doing this stuff, like what harm could that do? Because even if you get traded, it just shows the other team that, hey, look, I'm gonna be a team player no matter what. You could at least fake it. Like when we go to our jobs and stuff, like sometimes you're in situations you don't like, you just fake it a little bit. You know what I mean? So
All right, well, let me ask you this. If we're going to sit here and we, I think there's something to be said for Mixon showing up all the time. He has a contract. He's living up to the contract. It's not been a good off season for him, at least, reputation-wise, whatever's right, wrong, truth, fact, false. I don't know. We'll all find out one day. But he's here. Higgins, we've talked about, he's here. Williams is not here. We know why Awuzie and Lyle Collins are not here. But what about
right.
Tyler Boyd?
This is the thing. Bengals fans, like not you got to look at like the Quentin Williams of the world right now. All these guys that are lobbying for like I need to get paid right now and stop living in the well that ain't gonna happen to me. Like I'm not saying that Tyler Boyd is sitting there saying I need to get paid, but he's in a contract year. So the risk that is associated with it, even Tee Higgins, if I'm his agent, I'm probably telling them, Tyler Boyd or whatever. I don't know their situation, but I'm saying like you're taking a bit of a risk from a leverage standpoint, and you're also taking a risk on these workouts. If something were to happen to you, you're not going to get the same value in the open market because of the injury that's associated to it. And that's a risk that you had to take. And a lot of guys like Jesse
Yeah,
Bates,
but Zim, hang on, man. I mean, these guys are flipping footballs at each other and dunking them like basketballs. I mean, they're
because
not
he's
out
just
there going 7-on-7 or 11-on-11 with a bunch of contact. These guys are running around like you and I would be every single day of the – well, not like you and I. Maybe you, not me.
I think the workout is different when you control what you want to control. Where if opposed to if you go to the facility and your coaches are saying, "All right, line it up. We're about to go run this drill." Whereas like you might have a trainer and say, "Hey, look, we're going to do lifting all this week. I'm doing some light conditioning. I'm just running. I'm doing cardio this week." You're controlling what you want to control. You don't have to go to the facility and have coaches tell you what to do. And in a contract year, to me, that's important.
All right, good enough. All right. Anything else on your mind with the Bengalis? You like the culture, you like the vibe, you like what's going on, you like the draft, you're in a good place.
I'm in a really good place, man. I feel good. If the Bengals are healthy, you're going to just see me coming on here every single week, just telling you, like, I mean, come on, bro. Like, we're dominant now. Like, I don't get this. Like, I just think that people are living in what it used to be or something like that. Like, they're the most talented top 2 team in football. Like, I understand the Chiefs did win that game, but the only team on paper or in our faces that we've actually seen that have more talent are probably the Philadelphia Eagles right now. It's not the Kansas City Chiefs in that regard of talent. Now, can Mahomes, close that? Like, sure, because he's an amazing quarterback, right? But, like, man, look at the defensive line depth. Like, you're talking about your 7th, 8th guy is like, like Cam Samples of the world that could start and get a good like look at every single position group. The wide receiver 4, Yoshavas, or wide receiver 5, or Charlie Jones or whatever, will be a wide receiver 3 on 75% of the NFL.
Can't argue with that.
Look at the linebacker core. Akeem Davis-Gaither at linebacker 3 will be a linebacker 2 in 75% of the NFL.
Good point.
The safety position is a bit of a variable, but check this out. When people talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and they talk about like what they did in terms of their draft and stuff, and they just loaded up their secondary, yeah, they did it with a bunch of 7th-round guys and guys that went to HBCUs and all these different, back into the draft guys. Bro, like the backups are DJ Turner, a 2nd-round guy that would have been a 1st-round, like he was a fringe 1st-round pick. You got guys like Tyson Anderson that are like last man off the bench, or Sidney Jones that have started at different places like now in these roles, and then you got these young guys like now stepping up like the Dax Hills of the world. These are 1st-round picks. Like and that would be considered like the weakness of the Bengals. Show me that team that has that. Like that's my point. Outside of the Philadelphia Eagles, I just don't see like the talent levels all around the team. It's all about Bengals being healthy. The Bengals are healthy. You got to think Joe Burrow's stronger, bigger, faster. Jamar Chase is the strongest wide receiver in the National Football League. He's not even in his prime. Tee Higgins not even in his prime. Like the guys that we're talking about, they haven't even got to like their full potential.
Yep.
And we're ready to go.
All right. I got to tell you though, before I let you go, and I know Casey McAllister uses the word to describe him all the time as stink. I got to tell you, the team that is starting, I think, to make a serious challenge to the Bengals, the Cleveland Browns. Okay, you say whatever you want. I mean, they go get Zadarius Smith. They've already got Garrett. They get Dalvin Thompson. They've got stars all over the field on defense. They've got Deshaun Watson, who, whether you like the guy or don't like the guy, when he was able to go through year by year, off-season, working out at a team's facility all the years with the Texans, he was considered to be one of the 3 or 4 top guys in the league. They got Chubb. They got a very good offensive line. They've got some wide receivers. You're sitting there grinning like I'm a madman. I'm telling you, I know they're the Browns, and they'll find a way to screw it up probably. But I'm telling you, they're making some noise.
I think this is an Ohio thing or something like that. Because where I'm sitting at, I see a 7-8 win team. Just go through three things real quick. Three things real quick. What do you think is the biggest strength of the Cleveland Browns in years past? What would that be?
Well, it'd be their run game and their offensive line.
So if you're telling me Deshaun Watson is now like some superhero that's like that's vibranium on his still.
Wait a minute, Zim. Wait a minute now. I bet you if you and I, this show didn't exist, you were around and going strong already. But I would bet money that 2 or 3 years ago you were saying Watson was great.
Yes, and he still is. But if you're telling me that Watson is now going to be throwing the football more to utilize what makes him a point of strength. His accuracy is really pretty good when he's not rusty, and he can move. He's mobile, all these different things. He's an excellent quarterback. But if you're telling me that that's the strength of the team is running the football, I'm now taking the ball out of his hands, and out of Nick Chubb's hands, and now that's 6 to 8 less carries a game. That works in the Bengals' favor because those are the things that I think that hurt us the most. Also, secondly, they've done nothing from the linebacker position to covers out in the flats, and I still don't believe in any of their linebacking core. I don't believe in their secondary. Their secondary, the last time that we saw them with no Tee Higgins, no Tyler Boyd, and Hayden Hurst, what did Jamar Chase do to him when he got a full game on him? 10 catches, 120 yards, and nobody could stop him. Denzel Ward is probably one concussion away from being like maybe they're looking at him like with a crazy magnifying glass. The guy Newsome, he requested a trade this offseason. I could go all around the board, and they still can't stop the run. All those different things that they did, bringing in pass rushes and stuff like that, they were still one of the worst run defense teams in the National Football League.
Yes, they were.
I'm telling you that this is an Ohio thing that I think the reluctancy to say that they're trash, I get that. But you probably know like some Cleveland Browns fans that might give you some hell. Whereas I don't got any Cleveland Brown friends that I'm worried about at all. And I really just think I think you want to be respectful to your Cleveland, your
I
Ohio
don't
brother.
at all. I could care less about the place. I really don't.
You think Cleveland Browns are better than the Baltimore Ravens?
You know what? I don't want to say that. I don't. But I think there are far bigger questions. And you got to agree with me on this. There are far bigger questions about the Ravens' defense than there is about Cleveland's defense as far as what they've tried to do to address their problems. Now, look, Zadarius Smith starts out last year. I think he had 7 sacks in the first 9 games, right? Then he hurts his knee, and I think he only had 1.5 sacks the rest of the year, if I'm not mistaken. Off the top of my head, I think that's right. Okay, but at least their run defense stunk, talking about the Browns. They go get Thompson. They bring in some other guys that look like that could make an impact in addressing it. The Ravens, because they've basically been financially strapped because of this whole Lamar thing and everything going on. I know they're taking a flyer on OBJ. We'll see how that plays out. But they've done nothing to address the concerns of their defense.
I would just say that just talking to players, like on a team. Sorry, guys, I'm not trying to be an insider. If you were to ask a Bengals player, like it's the Ravens. The Ravens defense is more like now you do raise a good point. I worry about their bench and I worry about, the health and everything like that. Those are things. But as it stands, their starting lineup is built to stop the Bengals. Like
There's
as
no
far
doubt.
as their defense go.
Yep.
Like the speed of Queen, you didn't go and draft probably I thought Trenton Simpson was probably one of the best linebackers in the draft, if not the best. You go get speed with him, then you got Owe, you got all these guys that can cover in the flats and take away all those little dump off that Joe Burrow has to take in the checkdowns. Then you got an all-pro corner out there, a real all-pro corner in Marlon Humphrey. Now, the other side, sure, they don't know their CB2. They got Rocket Center or something like that. But then they got one of the best safeties in the draft last year with Kyle Hamilton. And they got Marcus Williams, who is probably one of the best outfielders in football, so you really can't push the football down the field. Then their run defense is at the top of the NFL.
Yep.
The Baltimore Ravens defense is, at the end of that season last year, was the best defense in football.
Yes,
outside
it
of
was.
maybe like the 49ers. Now, offensively, they're going to have some question marks, but the lightning bolt energy of a Lamar Jackson paired up with some legit, I thought Zay Flowers was one of the best route runners in this draft. So, health is a thing for them, but I think that the Ravens are, when I look at them from the outside looking in, that's a 10 to 12 win team. The Browns, from my viewpoint, like I said, I'm not in Ohio. I get it. That's like a 7 to 9 win team, fringe 9. And it's because there's so many holes in the run defense, the linebackers, and then the availability in that secondary got cooked last year. I don't know why people are trying to build that secondary up. I promise you, if we play them week 1 and our wide receivers out there, I'll give you fireworks.
All right. Okay. So you're taking the early line. You're taking the Bengals, giving 2.5 up there in Cleveland, I think it was, for the early line on Betfred Sports.
You're darn tootin'.
Zim, we love you, my man. You have a great rest of your day. Thanks for your time today, as always.
Great show right there. We covered a lot. Good.
You got it covered.
Good
we always get it covered with Zim Whodey.
Good talk.
ZimWhodey.com. Check it out. All the apparel, everything you need to know. Right? There it is.
Shiesty.
All right. We thank Zim for his time.